Having just done the ease exercise, we're now going to duplicate that scene and we're going to add a little more pizzazz to it using squash and stretch. So I'm going to select my prefab bounce, I'm going to duplicate the scene, and I'm just going to change that prefab bounce copy to prefab bounce plus. And I'm going to save every step that I go, Apple S, so that, because it seems to be crashing a little bit with this motion editor. Alright, so I'm going to go into the motion editor now, and what I want to do is go into the transformation, give this a little bit more room, and set a keyframe each time on the X and Y coordinates, X and Y, each time it either hits the ground or hits the peak, so that I can do the squashing and stretching. So, the first time that it hits is right there, and yes, you can see that it hits right at the point. I'm going to make a keyframe, and then I'm going to make this, increase this to, let's say 112, which means to keep the volume similar, I'm going to reduce this to 88 so that we get a nice squashed looking ball of whatever this stuff is. And like I said, I'm going to keep saving in between. Then I'm going to go up to where it hits the peak. It looks like maybe one more frame. And at this point, I want to change the X to be the lesser and the Y to be taller so that we get an elongated ball at this point. So let's start with the scale. Let's go up to 110, let's say. And maybe this time then this only goes down to 90. Big, tall, stretched out ball. Now, you can see that we're starting to create a chart going up and down. Let's go to our next hit. And I'm going to just using the scrubber go down. Looks like that's the frame. That's definitely the dot. And you can also do this visually if you like by just dragging these. So this time if we don't want it to be as extreme, we don't drag it to quite the same height and depth as we did the first time because it's not hitting as hard this time. And then we go further in time where it's arcing back up. That looks like the peak of the arc. And likewise here, let's set a keyframe. We're going to drag it closer in, but maybe not all the way in as far as we did that first extreme time. It's wanting to snap to that line. Let's get a sense, let's make sure that we're getting roughly the same number. So let's go 96 there and 104 there. And then a little further along in our timeline, when it hits the ground again, this is our last bounce. Looks like right there. Gonna click, click, and this time maybe just go up to 102, which means that this would go to only 98. And our last arc. One more. So let's go back up to 101 and 99. You can do these very exaggerated or just a little bit. And then the last time, the last hit, let's just go back to 100. Keyframes, 100. All right. So if we were to take a look at this right now, I predict that there will be a problem in that the ball is going to be squashing as it falls down, which is sort of goofy because we don't want it to squash until it hits the ground. So what we need to do is just go back one frame, set a keyframe, and at this point tell it that we want it to be 100% in both positions. And that way, when it hits that next frame, it really has some impact. Squish. So let's take a look at that. Looks pretty good.